Hey, what you reading for?
Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about books, literary horror classics, and contemporary. Recently, I read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This is a book that came out back in March of 2023, and T. Kingfisher is the pen name of American author Ursula Vernon. And she writes books for children, but when she writes for adults, she puts them out under the name T. Kingfisher. And this was my first T. Kingfisher experience. I was seeing this book come up a lot on lists of books I should read, and I cannot resist a list. I have very low list resistance. For example, if I have a shopping list and I go to the supermarket and I don't pick up every item on that shopping list, my head is a mess for days. Like, forget about it. In fact, earlier today, I went to the supermarket and I forgot to buy tea. And I need tea. There's no tea in the cupboards. But I had forgotten to put it on the list. So I come home and I realize there's no tea, and that doesn't bother me because it wasn't on the list, right? But if it had been on the list and I'd forgotten to buy it, no way I could make this video. My head would be a mess. Anyway, I am compelled by lists. I am also extremely buzz curious. If a book gets a buzz, I need to find out what the buzz is about. And the best way to do that is to read it. So I read it. And I have opinions. If you like books and you like content about people who read books and who have opinions about books, I do hope you will enjoy my content, and I hope you will consider subscribing. You could help keep this channel growing, and I do appreciate the support. I'll start by running a very short intro sequence featuring the music of one of my favorite composers, John Adams, and I'll see you on the other side to talk about A House with Good Bones? Question mark? This book has been billed as a Southern Gothic from the award-winning master of suspense. Now, this word, Southern Gothic, I've seen being tossed around quite freely these days. And for me, A House with Good Bones is not a Southern Gothic, not in my opinion. What makes a book Southern Gothic? According to A House with Good Bones, it just needs to be set in the South of the United States, and it has to involve a Southern family. But to me, in my opinion, that's not enough to make it Southern Gothic. When I think of Gothic, I think of a certain atmosphere. It's dark and mysterious, with sins and secrets permeating the very mortar of the manor, which, like its occupants, is in decay, no longer able to harbor the horrors of the past. All right, for me, that's Gothic. And this book doesn't fit that criteria. It's set in the South, in North Carolina, but it's set in a new house, relatively new house, that is, according to the book, it is a cookie cutter house in a subdivision, a middle class subdivision. It's not really a Gothic atmosphere. And there isn't really darkness in the atmosphere. And Master of Suspense, I do think the book has a lot going for it. I don't think suspense is one of those things. So the blurb immediately is a little bit misleading as they often are, aren't they? The book is about a woman who is on professional furlough, so she stays with her mother, who is showing signs of being uncharacteristically overstressed. So the woman, she tries to find out what's troubling her mom, and she discovers that there are ancestral forces disturbing the house that need to be dealt with. What were my expectations going into the read? Well, after perusing a few reviews, I was a bit skeptical because the reviews made frequent reference to a snarky narrator and attempts at humor. And I get a little bit nervous when books make an attempt at humor. For me, I associate books with attempts at humor at being cute. And I'm just not looking for cute in my books. I get plenty of cute from my cat Zvyezda. I don't need it in my books. And also, snark. I'm okay with snark in small doses, which I think is exactly what this book gave me. It gave me small, easily palatable doses of snark. And the humor, while I didn't laugh out loud, I did find the narrator charming and humoristic. And I did not find it overly cute in a off-putting way. No, I actually liked the narrator, which leads me into what I liked about the book. Well, I liked the characters. The narrator is also the protagonist, right? I liked the characters, all of them. All the characters are adults, which is fantastic. There are no kids, no teenagers, no 20-somethings, which is a welcome change of pace from what I usually get in contemporary fiction. So that was nice. All the characters are also all single, which is nice. They're either haven't found the right person for them yet, or they're widows or widowers. So that was interesting because it created opportunities for double entendres or perhaps some possible romantic tension, and it worked very well. And let's see, there is the protagonist, who is a 32-year-old woman on professional furlough. There's her mother, there's her grandmother, who really comes into play in flashbacks and memories. There's a crotchety old man who lives across the street, and there's the mother's handyman, who is related to the crotchety old man, and there's another neighbor who is good friends with the mother. And she is a retired wildlife rehabilitator. So she has, for example, a pet vulture, a vulture whose wing is not working right, so it can't fly, so she takes care of it. So it's great because there are a few characters, only 6 characters really, and I like them all, and I like a story with few characters. It's easier for me to keep track of. And I also love animals, so the pet vulture really worked on me. I thought that was charming as well. So I did like the characters. Also the narrator, the protagonist, she is an archaeoentomologist. So she is interested, or her job involves insects that have an effect or are found in archaeological sites, which was great because she's often making references to the world of archaeology, and she's also making references to bugs. And I know very little about either of those topics, so it was nice to spend time with her. I like when a protagonist has specific knowledge about a specific world that I'm not familiar with. It brings something new and interesting to the book, and I thought that this book did that well. It's one of the things I liked about it. I thought the book was competently written. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it was well written. There's no literary flair. There's nothing inventive or audacious in the writing. So I wouldn't say that it's well written, but it's competently put together. I thought it was well paced. What I didn't like about the book Well, I don't think it's a book that I am going to remember in a few months or a year. I can imagine myself a year from now looking through my Goodreads and seeing this book and, oh yeah, I remember I read that last year, and not being able to recall anything about it. I mean, it's a very light book, very middle of the road, safe. There's nothing challenging about it, not not emotionally or psychologically challenging or daring. So I think it's likely a book that I'm going to forget very, very soon. The book is being marketed as a horror book, which I think is regrettable. I think as a horror book, it is not at all satisfying on that level. It is horror in the sense that Scooby-Doo is horror. Now, I will admit, I have never actually seen Scooby-Doo. I know what it is. I mean, I have seen images. I've heard people talking about it. I'm under the impression that it's a very popular, beloved cartoon. So I do not mean for the comparison to be an unfavorable one. I just mean that there isn't really anything scary or any attempt to be scary or any attempt at terror or chills or suspense or anything like that. I think it's a fun book that lives in the horror universe a little bit, much like what I think Scooby-Doo it might be. There are some supernatural elements, but they aren't really explored, really. While there is action in the third act, I don't think the book ever tries for scares or tension or anything like that. From the first pages, when we are introduced to the narrator, we are given some snark and some humor. So the book announces its intentions right away. And it's going to be light and fun. And it dispelled me of any notions or any expectations that I was going to get a horror experience. So it dispelled those right from the start. And I will give the book credit that it maintained that tone throughout. It was very consistent in its light, fun tone, and it never tried to be something that it's not. This was my first experience with T. Kingfisher, which begs the question, do I want to check out more of her work? No, I think I'm good. I did like this book. I think it achieves what it sets out to achieve, which is to entertain. But me personally, I'm looking for more than that. I don't think that the book had any ambitions beyond being light and entertaining. And me, as a reader, I want to be challenged. I want a book that demands from the reader emotional or psychological investigation. And the book has none of those ambitions. So, yeah, I'm good. I'm not disappointed. I'm not upset that I did read it. But I'm good. The book was fine. I'm just gonna I want more, right? I'm greedy like that. I would feel better about the experience if this book weren't labeled horror. I feel like this is quite indicative of what publishers are putting out today and putting out and calling horror. It's not really horror though. It does live in the horror universe, but horror is supposed to challenge, it's supposed to create chills at least, or scares, or create some kind of emotional or psychological reaction. This book doesn't attempt to do that, but it is being marketed as horror. It's like when you have a favorite dish, for example, you love curry, and you go to the restaurant and you get a curry, and they've taken out all the spices. Yeah, it looks like curry, and I suppose in a way it fills you up a little bit, but it's not exactly curry. So you're going to have to start trying out those dodgy restaurants in the dark alleys, and you don't know where that meat comes from. You have to be careful about eating all that suspicious curry. how much of it are you going to be able to eat before you get sick, right? Unfortunately, all the restaurants in town, they seem to be serving curry with no spices. I guess that's what the people want, so that's what they're making. I don't know. I kind of want my curry to be spicy. I like to sweat. I like to cry when I eat, you know. I figure the plants and animals, they're suffering. You know, why shouldn't I have to suffer too? Here in France, French cuisine, they don't do spices. They don't do spicy food. Even in the supermarkets, like in the big city, I suppose you can get spices. I live in a small town in the south of France, and I can't get spices. Not even in the supermarket, really. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm hungry. I probably should have eaten before filming this video. Do you have any experience with Kingfisher? Have you read A House with Good Bones? Were you able to get something different or more out of it than I got? I would love to hear about your experiences. And I always love hearing from you in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I'll see you at the next video.